Friends from the media, good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference for the fifth session of the 13th National People's Congress on China's foreign policy and external relations. The press center is pleased to have invited State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi to join us and answer your questions. I now give the floor to Mr. Wang Yi.
Friends from the media, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to meet you again. For the world, the year ahead continues to be full of challenges. The world has not completely defeated COVID-19, and yet it is now facing the Ukraine crisis. The international situation, already rife with uncertainties, is becoming more complex and fluid. At such a critical moment, countries need solidarity, not division, dialogue, not confrontation. As a responsible major country, China will continue to hold high the banner of multilateralism. We will work with all peace-loving and development-seeking countries to strengthen solidarity and cooperation, jointly meet challenges, and continue to promote the building of a community with a shared future for mankind. We will strive together for a bright and better future for the world. With these words, I'm ready to take your questions.
请北区第三排第一位男士提问，谢谢。
好，谢谢主持人，王国伟好，我是总台央视记者。我们都知道北京冬奥会成功举办，这在当前国际形势和新冠疫情的这样一个局面下，实属难能可贵啊。有国际人士评价说啊，他说和2008年北京相比，那今天的中国呢就更为的自信和强大了，国际地位和影响力今非昔比。对此您怎么看？谢谢。
China Central Television. The Beijing Olympic Winter Games has been a great success. Some foreigners say that China has more confidence, strength, and international influence than it staged the Olympic Games in 2008. What is your view?
With the joint efforts of China and the international community, the Beijing Olympic Winter Games has achieved a full success. We have presented to the world a streamlined, safe, and splendid games, and a more confident, self-reliant, open, and inclusive China. Around 170 official representatives from close to 70 countries and international organizations were at the opening ceremony, supporting China with concrete actions. Here, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to friends from all countries that have participated in and supported Beijing 2022. Beijing 2022 is not only a success for China, but also a success for the world. It represents not just the triumph of sport, but more importantly, the triumph of solidarity. The Games was held amid the spread of Omicron and rising tensions over regional hotspots. It also faced politically motivated attempts of disruption and sabotage by a handful of countries. Under such circumstances, it was inspiring to see that the overwhelming majority of countries and people chose to unite under the Olympic spirit, bringing hope to people beset by the pandemic and confidence to a world overshadowed by instability. As we speak, athletes from around the world are giving their best performance on the Winter Paralympic field of play. I'm confident that the light of unity and cooperation created by the Olympic and Paralympic Games will shine through mist and rain and illuminate the path for humanity to jointly forge ahead into the future. Thank you.
下一个问题，请南区第二排右旗第三位路透社胡伟聪。
Good afternoon, State Councilor Wang. I'm from Reuters. On Ukraine, is China disappointed in Russia's conduct in Ukraine, in which hundreds of civilians have died and more than 1.5 million people have been refugees? Many observers have asked why China has not yet to describe this as a case of one country invading another, Are you concerned that China's refusal to condemn Russia's attack diminishes China's international standing? Can China do more, including leveraging on its partnership with Russia and President Putin to resolve the conflict? Thank you.
路透社记者。俄军在乌克兰的行动已经扩展到非军事设施，导致许多平民丧生，产生了150万难民。中方是否对此感到失望？中方仍未将此描述为入侵。您是否担心中方应拒绝谴责俄罗斯损害自身的国际地位？中方能否做更多努力，包括通过利用俄罗斯和普京总统的伙伴关系，帮助解决冲突？
The situation in Ukraine is on top of the mind of the international community, and the Chinese side has made our position quite clearly on a few occasions. We have always made an independent judgment of the situation and made our position clear based on the merits of the situation in an objective way. As a Chinese proverb puts it, it takes more than one cold day to freeze 3 feet of ice. The situation in Ukraine has become what it is today for a variety of complex reasons. What is needed to solve complex issues is a cool head and a rational mind, not adding fuel to the fire, which only intensifies the situation. China believes that to resolve the current crisis, we must uphold the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and respect and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. We must adhere to the principle of indivisible security and accommodate the legitimate security concerns of the parties involved. We must settle disputes by peaceful means through dialogue and negotiation, and we must keep in mind the long-term peace and stability of the region and put in place a balanced, effective and sustainable European security architecture. As things stand, the international community must make continuous efforts on 2 priorities. One priority is to facilitate dialogue for peace. China has made some efforts in this regard and had close communications with the relevant parties. On the second day of the conflict, President Xi Jinping spoke to President Vladimir Putin on the phone and expressed China's desire to see Russia and Ukraine hold peace talks as early as possible. President Putin responded positively, and Russia and Ukraine have since had 2 rounds of talks. We hope that the upcoming 3rd round will make further progress. China believes that the more tense the situation, the more important that the talks continue. The wider the disagreement, the greater the need to sit down and have negotiation. China is prepared to continue playing a constructive role to facilitate dialogue for peace and work alongside the international community when needed to carry out necessary mediation. The other priority is to prevent a massive humanitarian crisis. To this end, China wishes to propose a 6-point initiative. First, make sure that humanitarian operations abide by the principles of neutrality and impartiality and avoid politicizing humanitarian issues. Second, give full attention to the displaced persons in and from Ukraine and provide them with proper shelter. Third, ensure the protection of civilians and prevent secondary humanitarian disasters in Ukraine. Fourth, provide for safe and smooth humanitarian aid activities, including providing rapid, safe, and unimpeded humanitarian access. Fifth, provide for the safety of foreign nationals in Ukraine, allow them safe departure, and help them return to their home countries. And sixth, support the UN's coordinating role in channeling humanitarian aid and the work of the UN Crisis Coordinator for Ukraine. China will continue its efforts to stem the humanitarian crisis. I wish to announce that the Red Cross Society of China will provide Ukraine with a tranche of emergency humanitarian supplies as soon as possible. Thank you.
请南区第一排靠中间的第二位女士提问。
谢谢。我是凤凰卫视、凤凰网、凤凰秀的记者倪晓雯。这个问题也跟乌克兰有关。我们知道，当前世界是面临100年未有之大变局，进入了动荡变革期。那近期的乌克兰局势也是印证了这一点。所以国际社会也担忧世界会再次面临分裂和对抗的风险，形成新的冷战。请问各位对此怎么看？谢谢。
Phoenix Television. The world is experiencing profound changes and more turbulence, as we can see in the situation in Ukraine. The international community is concerned about the growing risk of division and confrontation and the potential for a new Cold War. What is your view?
The world is indeed far from being tranquil. Profound changes unseen in a century are unfolding before our eyes. Some major country, trying to hold on to its hegemony, has resurrected Cold War mentality and stoked bloc confrontation. This has fueled instability and division and added trouble to a world already facing so many challenges. What should be done? China firmly believes that the right way forward lies in greater solidarity and cooperation under the banner of multilateralism and joint efforts to build a community with a shared future for mankind. As President Xi Jinping observes, amidst the raging torrents of a global crisis, countries are not riding separately in some 190 small boats, but rather all in a giant ship on which our shared destiny hinges. Small boats may not survive a storm, but a giant ship is strong enough to brave a storm. First and foremost, we must preserve peace. Peace is a premise and foundation for development of all kinds. Countries need to follow the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, reject the notion of exclusive or absolute security, and stay committed to ceasing conflicts through negotiation, resolving disputes through dialogue, and increasing mutual trust through cooperation to jointly build a world of enduring peace. Second, we must enhance solidarity. Diversity is what makes our world an exciting place. Differences should not become a cause for confrontation. Countries should champion true multilateralism, advocate the common values of humanity, oppose hegemony and power politics, and oppose bloc politics. We must safeguard the UN-centered international system and uphold the basic norms of international relations based on the purposes of the UN Charter as we work to make the global governance system more fair and equitable. Third, we must uphold openness. Economic globalization is the trend of the times, and like it or not, it is here to stay and not to be stopped by geopolitical competition. We must say no to all forms of protectionism and isolationism and firmly uphold a free, fair and non-discriminatory multilateral trading system. We should tear down small yards with high fences and build open markets instead. Fourth, we must strengthen cooperation. Faced with challenges of a global nature, no country can stay aloof or unaffected. We must pull together in these trying times, enhance communication and coordination on COVID-19, terrorism, climate change, cybersecurity, and other global issues, build maximum consensus, and pursue convergence of interests wherever possible. In a world of instability and transformation, China always serves as an anchor for stability and a force for good, and always stands on the right side of history. We will continue to keep a global perspective, honor our responsibilities, and hold high the banner of peace, development, and win-win cooperation, to promote the building of a new type of international relations and a community with a shared future for mankind. China will work with all progressive forces in the world for development and together for a shared future. Thank you.
下一个问题，请南区第三排今日俄罗斯阿塞提问。
大家好，请问西方对俄罗斯和中国日益增长的集体制裁压力将如何影响俄中关系的进一步发展？谢谢。
International media group Россия сегодня. The West is ratcheting up sanctions on Russia, with repercussions for China as well. How will this affect Russia-China relations?
China and Russia are both permanent members of the UN Security Council and each other's most important close neighbors and strategic partners. Our relationship is one of the most crucial bilateral relations in the world. Our cooperation not only advances the interests of both peoples, but also contributes to peace, stability, and development in the world. Last year, the two sides commemorated the 20th anniversary of the China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation. Given the increasingly complex international strategic landscape, our shared commitment to everlasting friendship and mutually beneficial cooperation, as enshrined in the treaty, is highly relevant and important not only to both sides, but also to countries across the world. I wish to stress that the China-Russia relationship is valued for its independence. It is based on non-alliance, non-confrontation, and non-targeting of any third party. We are determined that it is free from interference or discord sown by third parties. This is both what historical experience has taught us and an innovation in international relations. Not long ago, the two sides issued a joint statement on international relations entering a new era and global sustainable development. It sends an unequivocal message to the world that China and Russia jointly oppose attempts to revive the Cold War mindset or provoke ideology-based confrontation, and stand for greater democracy in international relations, as well as the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. The China-Russia relationship is grounded in the clear logic of history and driven by strong internal dynamics. And the friendship between Chinese and Russian peoples is rock solid. There is a bright prospect for cooperation between the two sides. No matter how precarious and challenging the international situation may be, China and Russia will maintain strategic focus and steadily advance our comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination for a new era.
请南区第四排靠中间的第二位男士提问。
谢谢主持人，王国伟您好，我是新华社记者。近日来我们关注到中国从乌克兰陆续撤出了多批中国公民。我们注意到，在中国驻乌克兰的使领馆克服困难，做了大量的组织协调工作，保护了在当地中国公民的安全。在报道中我们也看到，有中国留学生非常动情地说，我们的护照就是硬通货。因为我们身后有强大的祖国，所以我想请问外长，您对此怎么看？能否介绍一下有关的情况？谢谢。
Xinhua News Agency. The Chinese embassy is working hard to evacuate Chinese nationals from Ukraine. Many Chinese students in Ukraine are grateful for what their mother country is doing for them. Can you share more information with us?
With tensions escalating in Ukraine, the CPC Central Committee and the State Council are highly concerned about the safety of every Chinese national in Ukraine. General Secretary Xi Jinping has taken a personal interest, repeatedly asked about the situation, and demanded all-out efforts to ensure the safety of Chinese nationals. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has activated its consular emergency response mechanism, both maintaining diplomatic communications with Ukraine, Russia, and countries in the neighborhood, and issuing safety alerts and reminders for Chinese compatriots in Ukraine. In the immediate aftermath of the dramatic developments on the ground, we acted promptly to help Chinese nationals in Ukraine to take shelter and provided timely assistance to those in need. Meanwhile, we are seizing the window of opportunity to organize emergency evacuation of Chinese nationals. My colleagues at the Chinese Embassy in Ukraine and the Consulate General in Odessa are taking great personal risks to arrange for the safe passage of Chinese nationals. Chinese embassies in the neighboring countries of Ukraine are working around the clock and leaving no stone unturned to provide shelter for and facilitate the departure of our compatriots. Relevant government departments and various Chinese localities have also been coordinating closely to send multiple charter flights to bring our compatriots home from various European cities. As we worked on the safety and evacuation of Chinese nationals, the government and various sectors of society in Ukraine showed goodwill and provided facilitation. Countries including Russia, Moldova, Romania, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and Belarus also provided invaluable support. What they have done is an expression of great friendship toward the Chinese people. On behalf of the Chinese side, I would like to say a hearty thank you to the governments and peoples of those countries. During the evacuation, the Chinese community in Ukraine and neighboring countries, including Chinese students and firms, mobilized every resource at their disposal and worked closely with each other. This once again shows the Chinese virtue of solidarity in the face of challenges. I wish to give them my warm and sincere regards. As we speak, there are still some Chinese nationals in Ukraine due to the local situation or for personal reasons. Our thoughts are with them. We're in close touch with them and are prepared to provide all possible assistance in response to their needs. The world is not yet a tranquil place. As an online comment reads, we don't live in a peaceful world, but we are lucky to have a motherland that seeks and enjoys peace. Serving the people is the abiding commitment of the Chinese diplomatic service. With everything we do, we will continue to show every one of our compatriots overseas that we stand with you at all times, wherever you may be, and your motherland will always have your back. Thank you.
请北区第三排左起第三位 NBC Eric。
Thank you. NBC News about China-U.S. relations. State Councilor Wang Yi, you recently urged the United States to, quote, reinstate a reasonable, pragmatic China policy to put relations on the right track, even expressing willingness to work with the United States on the Build Back the World global infrastructure plan, for example. But are you not worried that bilateral relations could, in fact, only worsen in the months and years ahead, given what's considered a bipartisan consensus in the United States to intensify competition with China across the board? Thank you.
美国全国广播公司，您近期敦促美方重拾理性、务实的对华政策，推动双边关系重回正轨，并表示愿考虑同美方在重建更好世界、全球基础设施倡议方面进行协调。但考虑到全面对华竞争已成为美两党共识，您是否担心中美关系下一步会持续恶化？
去年以来， Since the start of last year, President Xi Jinping and President Joe Biden have had a virtual meeting and 2 phone conversations. Meanwhile, the 2 sides have had dialogue and interactions at other levels. U.S. leaders and senior officials have stated that the U.S. has no intention to seek a new Cold War or change China's system, that the revitalization of U.S. alliances is not anti-China, and the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence, and that it is not looking for conflict or confrontation with China. Regrettably, however, these statements are just verbal assurances and have yet to be put into practice. The reality we have seen is this. The U.S. is going to great lengths to engage in intense zero-sum competition with China. It keeps provoking China on issues concerning our core interests, and it is taking a string of actions to piece together small blocks to suppress China. These actions undermine the overall China-U.S. relations and disrupt and erode international peace and stability. This is not how a responsible power should act, or how a credible country does things. China is an independent, sovereign country. We have every right to do what is necessary to firmly defend our legitimate interests. In China's view, major country competition should not be the order of the day. A zero-sum game is not the right choice. In a globalized and interdependent world, how China and the U.S. find the right way forward and manage to get along is both a new question for humanity and a formulation that must be worked out by China and the U.S. together. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Shanghai Communique. Looking back, China and the US, in the spirit of seeking common ground while reserving differences, were able to replace confrontation with cooperation, advance the interests of our two peoples, and make the world a more peaceful and prosperous place. Looking ahead, the two sides need to re-embrace the conviction that helped us break the ice 50 years ago and set out on a new journey. We must replace the competitive, collaborative, adversarial trichotomy with the three principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. Return the China policy of the US to the right track, guided by reason and pragmatism, and to put China-US relations back on the right path of healthy and stable development. Thank you.
南区第5排，爱妃社 Sandino。
Good afternoon. I'm from AFP Spanish News Agency. So my question is, does China believe that its close relation with Russia amid the conflict in Ukraine may affect its relation with the European Union? Thank you.
爱妃社记者，您认为日益密切的中俄关系以及乌克兰危机是否会影响中国同欧盟的关系？
中俄关系和中欧关系完全是两个问题。
China-Russia relationship and China-Europe relations are
我认
separate.
为中国和欧洲是维护世界和平的两大力量。
In our view, China and Europe are two major forces for world peace, two big markets for common development, and two great civilizations for human progress. The China-Europe relationship is not targeted at any third party, nor is it subjugated to or controlled by any third party. Dialogue and cooperation between the two sides on the basis of mutual respect and mutual benefit will add more stabilizing factors to an unstable world. China and Europe had fruitful cooperation in 2021. Let me give you two examples. China-EU trade exceeded $800 billion last year for the first time, underscoring the high complementarity of the economic and trade ties. The China-Europe Railway Express ran more than 15,000 cargo trips, up by 29% year-on-year, and played an active role in promoting international cooperation against COVID-19, ensuring the stability of industrial and supply chains, and facilitating global economic recovery. That said, some forces are unhappy to see the steady growth of China-Europe relations. They fabricate the narrative of China threat, play up competition with China, clamor for seeing China as a systemic rival, and even impose sanctions and provoke confrontation with China. Both China and Europe must be on high alert against these developments. China-Europe cooperation, going through decades of ups and downs, is deeply rooted in solid public support, extensive common interests, and similar strategic needs. Such cooperation enjoys great resilience and potential. It cannot be reversed by any force. China views its relations with Europe from a strategic, long-term perspective. China's policy toward Europe is firm and consistent. It will not be affected by any turn of events. We will continue to support the independence of Europe and a united and prosperous EU. In the meantime, we hope that Europe will develop a more independent and objective perception of China, adopt a more pragmatic and rational China policy, and work with China to oppose a new Cold War and uphold and act on true multilateralism. Going forward, the two sides need to work together for the success of the China-EU summit and other important events on the political agenda. We will seek greater strategic synergy, expand practical cooperation, advance multilateral coordination, deepen people-to-people exchange, and properly manage differences, so as to jointly deliver more concrete benefits to the world. Thank you.
请继续提问。请北区第二排北起第二位女士提问。
好，谢谢主持人。 王国伟您好，我是总台国广记者。我的问题呢是有关于“一带一路”。那么自2013年提出以来呢，“一带一路”在世界范围内引起了非常大的反响。那么实际上我们也看到它的增速是世界非常明显的。但是近年来可能由于受到疫情等相关因素的影响，“一带一路”的发展势头似乎有所减弱。所以想请问中方是如何来看待这样的情况，将采取怎样的措施？谢谢。
China Radio International. The Belt and Road Initiative has been welcomed worldwide. Yet COVID-19 seems to have hindered its progress. How does China see the situation, and what will China do in response?
尽管受到疫情等因素的冲击，
Despite the
但是我们看
impact
到，
of the pandemic
共建
and
“一带
other
一路” 仍
factors,
然保持着
Belt
良
and
好
Road
的势头。
cooperation has
过去
maintained
1
a
年
sound
来，
momentum. Over the
“一
past
带一路”
year,
基础设施的
the
硬
hard
联通
connectivity
扎
of
实
infrastructure made
中老
solid
铁路
progress.
以色列
Major
海法
projects
新港
such
等
as the
重大项目
China-Laos
顺利竣
Railway
工，
and the new
中巴
Haifa
经济走
port
廊、
in Israel
彼得
were
夫斯
completed.
港、
The
雅万高
construction and
铁，
operation of
还有
projects
匈
in
塞铁路
relation
等
to the China-Pakistan
那么
economic
它们的
corridor,
运营
the
都在稳
Piraeus
步
port,
地
the
推进。
Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, and the
刚才我们说到
Budapest-Belgrade
中欧班
railway
列的开
advanced
行量
steadily.
和货运量
The
都
China-Europe
创造了历
Railway
史新高。
Express
这些
reached
都为
new
各国的
records
经
in
济
the
复
number of
苏
freight
提供
services
了
and
强
the
劲的
amount
动
of
力。
cargo transportation, providing a strong
一带一
boost
路
to
规则
economic
标准的
recovery
软联
in
通
relevant countries.
亮点纷
The
呈。
institutional
今年
connectivity
以来，
of
又有10
rules
个国家
and
同中
standards
国签署了
yielded fruitful
“一
results.
带一路”合作文件。
Since the start of last
共
year,
建“一带一
10
路”
more
的大家庭
countries
成
have
员达
signed
到
Belt
了
and Road
180
cooperation documents with China,
我们还成功举
extending the
办
BRI
“一带一路”
family to
亚太区域
180
国际合作
members.
高级别会议
A。successful Asia and Pacific
“一带
high-level
一路” 疫
conference
苗合
on
作
Belt and Road
和绿色
cooperation
发展伙
was
伴
held,
关系的倡议
and the
得到了
initiatives
广泛
for
的支
Belt
持。
and Road partnership on vaccine cooperation and
再
green
有“一带一
development
路”
have both
互帮
received
互
wide
助的
support.
新联通在持续
The
地深入。
people-to-people connectivity
我们
featuring
全力
mutual
使
help
援
and
各国的抗
assistance
疫，
continue to
同
deepen.
20多个泛荣
We
国
have
家
given strong support
开
to
展
other
疫苗
countries
联
in their
合生
fight
产，
against
其中
COVID-19
大部分
and are working on joint
面
vaccine
向的是“一
production
带一路”
with 20 developing
还有
country
一大
partners,
批
most
小
of
而
which
美
are
的项目
BRI
在
partner
稳步的实
countries.
施，
A large number
帮助
of
共建
small
国
yet
家
smart
的民
assistance
众
programs have
增加
been
了收
steadily
入，改
carried
善了
out
生活。
to help people in partner countries
这些
improve
事实都
income
充分说
and
明，
livelihood.
共建“一带一
What
路”
I
合
have
作
shared
伙
with
伴
you can
不断扩
aptly
大，
show
合作
that
基
Belt
础
and Road
日益
cooperation
牢
is
固，
moving
合作
forward
前景
with
更加
more
广阔，
partners, stronger
必将
foundation,
为
and
后
brighter
疫情时代
prospects.
的世界
It is sure to
开
bring
辟
new development
新的发展契
opportunities
机。
to the post-COVID world.
接下来，我们将按照习近
Going
平主
forward,
席
we
去
will
年在
do
第
as
3次
President Xi
“一
Jinping
带一路”
said
建设座
at
谈会上
last
提出
year's
的要求，
third symposium on the
同
BRI
国际社会
and
一道，
work with the
继续
international
推进
community
高质
to
量
continue
共建“一带一
advancing
路
high-quality Belt
努
and
力实
Road
现
cooperation.
更高合
We
作
will
水
aim
平
for higher-level
更高
cooperation,
投入效
better
益
cost
更高
effectiveness,
供给质
higher
量
quality supply,
更高发展
and
韧性
stronger development
将“一带一
resilience
路
to make
打
the
造成
BRI a
造福
belt
世界的
of
发展带
development to the
惠及
benefit
各国
of the
人民的
world
幸福
and a road to happiness for people of
好，
all
下一个问
countries.
题，
Thank you.
请北区第一排联合早报黄晓芳提问。
谢谢主持人。新加坡联合早报记者提问：美国正以印太地区作为战略重点，有学者认为这可能制衡中国的影响力。中国如何评估印太地区和印太4国的概念？它对本区域会带来什么影响？谢谢。
联合早报。The United States is turning its focus to the Asia Pacific to counterbalance China's influence in the region. What is China's take on the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy and the Quad and their implication for the region?
美国的印太战略
The U.S.
正在成为
Indo-Pacific
集
strategy
团政治
is
的
becoming
代名
a
词。
byword for bloc politics.
我们看到美方打着促进
The
地区
United
合作的
States
旗号，
professes a desire
玩
to
弄的却
advance
是
regional
地缘博
cooperation,
弈的把
but
戏。
in reality, it is
高喊要
stoking
回归多
geopolitical
边主义，
rivalry. It talks
实
a
际上
lot about
就
returning
在
to multilateralism,
封闭排他
but
的
in
俱乐部，
reality, it is forming exclusive clubs.
声称要维护国际
It
规则，
claims to uphold international
但却试
rules,
图另搞一
but
套
in
自己的
reality,
邦
it
规。
is setting and imposing rules that
从
suit
强
itself
化
and
五眼
its
联盟
acolytes.
到兜售
From
四边机
strengthening the
制，
Five Eyes
拼
to
凑
peddling the
三边合
Quad,
作伙伴关系，
from piecing together other AUKUS to tightening bilateral military alliances, the U.S. is staging a 5-4-3-2 formation in the Asia-Pacific. This is by no means some kind of blessing for the region, but a sinister move to disrupt regional peace and stability. The real goal of the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy is to establish an Indo-Pacific version of NATO. It seeks to maintain the U.S.-led system of hegemony, undermine the ASEAN-centered regional cooperation architecture, and compromise the overall and long-term interests of countries in the region. The perverse actions run counter to the common aspiration of the region for peace, development, cooperation, and win-win outcomes. They are doomed to fail. The Asia-Pacific is a promising land for cooperation and development, not a chessboard for geopolitical contest. With its root struck deep in the Asia-Pacific, China is committed to the region's stability and prosperity. We welcome all initiatives that meet regional realities and the needs of relevant parties, and resolutely oppose all acts that lead to confrontation and dividing camps in the region. China wants all parties to join us in doing the right thing and staying on the right course. Together, we will reject attempts to create small, divisive circles in the Indo-Pacific and instead foster a broad, inclusive platform for Asia-Pacific cooperation, leading to an Asia-Pacific community with a shared future. Thank you.
第三位女士。
谢谢主持人，王国伟您好，我是人民日报记者。世界经济复苏面临严峻挑战，习近平主席提出的全球发展倡议受到国际社会广泛关注和期待。您能否介绍倡议推进落实的最新进展？谢谢。
People's Daily. Given the challenges to global recovery, President Xi Jinping's Global Development Initiative has drawn international attention and recognition. Can you share with us the progress in its implementation?
确实，疫情严重冲击全球发展的进程，
COVID-19 has indeed
特
had
别
a
是发展
serious
中国家
impact on the
遭
global
受到重
development
创。
process.
在这样
Developing
背景之
countries
下，
in
习
particular
近平主
are
席
taking the
在联合
brunt.
国
It is
郑重
against
提
this
出了
backdrop
全球发展
that
倡议，
President Xi
目的
Jinping proposed
就
the
是呼吁各
GDI
国
at the United Nations,
更加重视发
calling
展
on
问题，
all countries
从而
to
形成
focus
合
on
力共赢
development,
挑战。
pool their efforts,
这个
and
倡议
meet
最核心的理
challenges
念
together.
是以人民
The
为中
centerpiece
心，
of the GDI
最
is to
重要的
put
目标
people front
是要
and
助
center.
力落
Its
实联
most
合国
important goal
2030
is to
年可持续发展
facilitate
历程。
the implementation of the
倡
2030
议
agenda.
契合了各方需要，
Highly responsive to the needs of various parties, the GDI has been warmly received and supported by the UN
今年1
and
月份，
nearly 100
全
countries.
球发展倡
In
议智友
January,
小组
Representatives
在纽约联合国总部
from
举行
over
了首次会议。
100 countries and more than
超过
20
100个
UN
国家
agencies
和20多个国际
attended
组织
the
代表
launch of
齐
the
聚一
Group
堂。
of Friends of the GDI
那么
at the
为落
UN
实
headquarters in New York,
这个倡议，凝聚了更广泛
building
的国际共
greater
识。
international consensus on
中方一
implementing
向认
the
为，可持
GDI.
续发展才是
China
好发展。
believes that
大
good
家一起
development
发展
is
才是真
sustainable
发展。
and true
我
development
们愿意同
is
各方一
development
道，
for all.
从4个方面
China
来
will
推动
work
倡
with
议
all
逐步
parties
的落
in
地。
4 areas to implement the
一
GDI
是对
step
接
by
重
step.
点领域，
First,
聚焦发展中
forging
国家
synergy
当前
in
面临的最
priority
紧迫
areas.
的课题。
We will focus on the
尤其
most
是
pressing
减
concerns
贫脱
of
贫、
developing
粮
countries
食安
and
全、
advance practical
经济
cooperation
复
in
苏、
such
就业培
areas
训、
as poverty reduction,
教育卫
food
生、绿
security,
色发展等，
economic recovery, employment
在这些领
training,
域
education,
开展
health,
务实的
and
合
green
作，
development, so
来
that
助推
all
2030
17
年17个
SDGs
可持
will
续
be
发展
met
目标如期
as
实现。
scheduled.
二是对接各国需求，
Second,
要秉持
responding
开
to the
放
needs
包容
of
的
all
伙伴精
countries.
神，
We
坚
will
持
follow
共
the
商共建
spirit
共
of
享，
open and
欢迎
inclusive
各方
partnership and
结
the
合自身
principle
的
of
实际需
extensive
求
consultation,
或者
joint
优势的资源
contribution, and
来
shared
灵活地
benefits.
参与这个倡议。
We welcome the participation of all parties in
三是
flexible
对接
ways
合作机
in light
制，
of their needs
我
and
们愿意
strengths.
同所有
Third,
感兴趣
partnering
的
with
国家、
cooperation mechanisms. We
地
will
区
work
还
with
有国际
all
组织，
interested
尤其是
international
联合
and
国系统
regional
来携手合作。
organizations, and
我们也
especially
愿意
the
同协
UN
岛屿、
system
内
to
陆
seek
最不发达国
complementarity
家
with the development processes of small island developing states, landlocked developing countries, and least developed countries. This way, we could give play to the respective strengths of various parties and forge a global synergy. Fourth, reaching out to partners of all sectors. We value the role of the private sector, NGOs, experts, think tanks, and the media in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. We welcome the recommendation and participation of all parties. In short, the GDI is another major initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping after the BRI. It is another clarion call to mobilize global development cooperation and another endorsement of putting people front and center as a core concept of human rights. The GDI has drawn up a roadmap for narrowing the North-South gap and addressing development imbalance, and given a boost to the 2030 Agenda. China will work with all countries to pursue and follow through on the GDI, ensuring that no country or individual is left behind and no aspiration is overlooked, and to jointly build a global community of development. Thank you.
请北区第4排靠中间走廊新闻台长兴。
谢谢亚洲新闻台记者提问。去年是中国和东盟建立对外关系30周年，自那以后 ，RCEP 贸易协定正式生效。想请问，接下来在面临例如防疫、南海问题和缅甸局势的挑战下，中国计划如何深化与东盟的关系？谢谢。
Channel News Asia. China and ASEAN marked 30 years of diplomatic ties last year and have since seen the RCEP Trade Pact coming into force. In the face of challenges like COVID-19, the South China Sea, and the situation in Myanmar, how does China plan to deepen its relationship with ASEAN? Are there plans to deepen cooperation on COVID-19 and resume connectivity or exchanges?
30 years ago, China and ASEAN established dialogue relations, leading the way for cooperation in the region. 30 years on, China and ASEAN have entered into a comprehensive strategic partnership, setting a prime example of good neighborliness and friendship. Over the past 3 decades, China and ASEAN have embraced the trend of the times, geographic proximity, and cultural affinity, found a broad path of good neighborliness and win-win cooperation, and established a model of most vibrant and promising regional cooperation. The China-ASEAN relations have no limits and are sure to grow even closer. Going forward, China will work with ASEAN countries to keep in mind our regional aspiration of maintaining stability and tranquility, fulfill our shared mission of common development, and uphold the principle of mutual understanding, accommodation, help, and support between good neighbors. China-ASEAN relations will speed ahead like trains on the China-Laos Railway. The two sides will make new progress in building a closer China-ASEAN community with a shared future and bring greater benefits to the people of both sides. China and ASEAN must be forerunners in international cooperation against COVID-19. We will deepen cooperation on joint production of vaccines and research and development of key medicines to build an unbreakable health shield. We will also ensure the smooth operation of the fast track and green lane for the movement of people and goods to keep all people in the region safe and sound. China and ASEAN must be pace setters in regional cooperation. We will move forward comprehensive and effective implementation of RCEP and launch a new round of upgrade of the China-ASEAN Free Trade Area as soon as possible. We will expand cooperation in new areas including blue, green, and digital economies, and on the new international land-sea trade corridor to set new benchmarks for regional cooperation. China and ASEAN must be defenders of stability in the Asia-Pacific. Peace, stability, and prosperity are the common aspiration of regional countries. The Asia-Pacific should not be a chessboard for major power rivalry. ASEAN countries are not chess pieces in a geopolitical contest. but are important chess players who will help promote regional development and prosperity. China will continue to view ASEAN as a high priority in its external relations. We will firmly uphold the ASEAN-centered regional cooperation architecture and the status of Southeast Asia as a nuclear weapon-free zone, safeguard regional peace and stability, support the ASEAN way in the mediation of regional hotspots, and oppose any attempt to revive opposing blocs or stoke division and confrontation in the region. Thank you.
请南区第一排日本共同社提问。
谢谢。日本共同社提问：今年是中日邦交正常化50周年，习近平主席说，今年是重要历史节点，希望开辟两国关系新的发展前景。虽然中日之间还存在有些分歧，两国各界期待更好的交流。中方如何看待新时代的中日关系？今年中方在国内有什么样的活动计划？谢谢。
Kyoto News. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the normalization of China-Japan relations. President Xi Jinping has said that it should be a historic moment for the two sides to open up new prospects in bilateral relations. There remain some disagreements between China and Japan, but the two societies expect closer interactions. How does China view its relations with Japan in a new era? How will China mark this 50th anniversary?
今年是中日邦交正常化50周年。
As this year marks the 50th anniversary of the normalization of China-Japan relations, it provides an important opportunity for the two sides to review history and shape the future together. 5 decades ago, the older generation of leaders in both countries, in a bid for peace and friendship between our two countries, demonstrated enormous political courage and made the major decision to normalize China-Japan relations. Over the past 5 decades, our expanding exchanges and cooperation have delivered important benefits to our two peoples. Last year, our leaders reached important common understanding on building a China-Japan relationship fit for the new era, charting the future course for our bilateral relations. On the other hand, we are aware of the remaining discord and challenges in the relationship. In particular, there are always some people in Japan who are reluctant to see the rapid development of China and stable China-Japan relations. Here, let me offer 3 pieces of advice to the Japanese side. First, cherish the original aspiration and keep the bilateral relations on the right track. It is important to truly abide by the principles and spirit of the 4 China-Japan political documents, implement such important common understandings as the two countries should be partners, not threats, and support each other's peaceful development. These are crucial for the bilateral relations to develop in the direction of peace and friendship. Second, honor commitments and uphold the political foundation of bilateral relations. Major sensitive issues such as history and Taiwan are foundational to mutual trust between our two countries. If the foundation is shaken, whatever above it cannot stand. We hope that Japan will honor the series of solemn commitments it has made on these issues to avoid serious disruption to our bilateral relations. Third, embrace the trend of the times and jointly create brighter prospects for bilateral relations. The world is becoming a multipolar one, where unilateralism and hegemonism will be replaced by greater democracy in international relations. Cold War alliances and the geopolitical confrontation have long lost people's support. This is the inevitable trend of history. We hope that Japan will go along this trend instead of against it, decline to pull chestnuts out of the fire for others, and avoid pitting itself against its neighbors. This is the way for Japan to truly draw lessons from history and look ahead to the future and contribute its share to regional peace, stability, and development. Thank you.
请北区第一排中间第5位男士提问，谢谢。
谢谢主持人，王国伟您好，我是中国新闻社的记者。在过去的1年，外交部为帮助海外中国公民纾困解难方面做了大量工作。那么想请问，今年外交部在继续践行外交为民宗旨方面，我们又会采取哪些新的举措？谢谢。
China News Service. Over the past year, the Foreign Ministry has done a great deal to provide support and help to Chinese nationals abroad. This year, what new measures will the ministry take to serve the people through diplomacy?
The past year has been tough for the many Chinese nationals abroad. The COVID-19 pandemic, natural disasters, political turbulence, and armed conflicts posed constant threats to the safety of Chinese nationals abroad, and for that matter, caused great concern to the people in the motherland. If Chinese nationals abroad cannot come home for the time being, we bring the warmth of home to them. In the course of last year, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and China's diplomatic and consular missions abroad did their level best to carry out a spring sprout program around the world to vaccinate millions of Chinese nationals living and working in 180 countries. With the 12308 hotline open 24/7, we handled more than 500,000 calls for help and over 60,000 cases of consular protection and assistance, and rescued several dozen Chinese from their abductors, all part of an all-out effort to protect the life, safety, and legitimate rights and interests of our compatriots abroad. On the eve of China's National Day last year, our unremitting efforts finally paid off, and Ms. Meng Wanzhou, who had spent over 1,000 days in legal detention, was safely back to home. Her remark that if conviction has a color, it must be red, the color for China, struck a deep accord with her 1.4 billion fellow Chinese. Serving the people and addressing their concerns is the bounden duty of China's diplomatic service. Going forward, we will continue to put people first and act as a ready provider of good service to the people and a defender of the interests of our compatriots overseas. This year, we will focus our efforts on the following 3 areas. First, we will develop a platform for smart consular services and provide more services that can be easily accessed through mobile devices to improve digital 24/7 consular services. Second, we will build a system for the protection of Chinese nationals and interests overseas, enhance alert of safety risks, and offer security and self-protection guidance for Chinese businesses to provide more effective and timely safety and security support to our fellow Chinese abroad. Third, we will roll out a plan to facilitate safe, unimpeded travel by upgrading fast lanes for cross-border travel and health certificates for international travelers, so as to facilitate safe, healthy, and convenient international travel. Thank you.
下一个问题，请北区第2排左起第2位韩联社提问。
谢谢主持人。韩国的韩联社提问。朝核问题似乎越来越难以解决。中方作为朝核6方会谈的东道主，请问为重启政治解决的进程，中方有哪些具体方案？还有中国政府一贯主张缓解对朝制裁，但是如果朝鲜进行核试验或者发射洲际弹道导弹，请问中方仍会反对加强对朝制裁吗？最后，韩国跟中国马上迎来建交30周年，但最近两国国内对彼此的负面感情、负面情绪有所上升，中方想怎样发展两国关系？谢谢。
Yonhap News Agency. What specific plans does China have to restart the six-party talks on the Korean nuclear issue? If the DPRK conducts a nuclear test or launches intercontinental missiles, will China still call for respecting the DPRK's legitimate concerns and easing sanctions? And finally, in this 30th anniversary year for China-ROK diplomatic relations, how does China see the future of China-ROK relations?
As an old Chinese saying goes, we must tend to the root cause when curing a disease or remedying a mistake. The root cause for the issues on the Korean Peninsula is that the external security threats facing the DPRK have remained unresolved and its legitimate security concerns unaddressed for too long. To resolve the issues on the Korean Peninsula, parties concerned must meet each other halfway. Since 2018, the DPRK has taken a set of positive steps to get dialogue going, but these steps have not been duly reciprocated. This is not consistent with the action for action principle agreed by all parties. As a result, the already severe trust deficit between the DPRK and the US has further exacerbated, and the various dialogue proposals have become empty slogans. We have taken note of the recent US statement that it harbors no hostile intent toward the DPRK and is ready to address the issues through diplomacy. How the situation will evolve will largely depend on what the US will do, whether it will take the actions needed to settle the issues on the peninsula or continue to use them as a geostrategic leverage. Once again, we call on the US to take concrete measures to address the legitimate security concerns of the DPRK, build basic mutual trust, and follow the dual-track approach and the principle of phased and synchronized actions to advance the political settlement of the issues. China will continue to play a constructive role and do what is necessary to facilitate the endeavor. On China-ROK relations, the two countries are friendly neighbors sharing a deep historical bond. The Chinese people often say, a close neighbor can be more helpful than a distant relative. This is echoed by a similar proverb in the ROK. While a house could be bought with 3 coppers, a good neighbor is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. This year marks the 30th anniversary of China-ROK diplomatic relations. Over the past 3 decades, China-ROK relations have withstood the changing circumstances and achieved all-round and rapid development. Past events have proven that China and ROK are not adversaries, but partners with converging interests, a lot to offer each other, and much untapped cooperation potential. China will work with the ROK and take this year as an opportunity to carry forward our traditional friendship, deepen mutually beneficial cooperation, and achieve greater development together. Thank you.
博塔女士提问。
谢谢主持人。哈萨克斯坦24吉电视台记者。今年是中国和中亚国家建交30周年。1月，中国同中亚5国举行了建交30周年视频峰会，标志着中国中亚关系进入新时代。各方就深化政治、经贸、文化、人文、安全等领域合作提出了具体建议，为落实包括推动提升中国同中亚国家间边境货物货量等既定目标，中方计划采取哪些具体措施？谢谢。
Kabar 24 News Channel. This January, China and the 5 Central Asian countries had a virtual summit to mark the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations and plan future cooperation. What will China do to increase cross-border cargo turnover and enhance other areas of cooperation with the 5 countries?
This year has seen a string of major joyous occasions in China's relations with Central Asia. In January, President Xi Jinping had a virtual summit with the presidents of the 5 Central Asian countries to commemorate the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations that was followed by the visits of the 5 presidents to Beijing for a rendezvous with the Winter Olympics. China always believes that a growing, prosperous, stable and dynamic Central Asia is in the common interest of China and other countries in the region. We will continue to follow the principles of mutual respect, good neighborly friendship, solidarity in trying times, and mutual benefit. Jointly build a strategic partnership featuring rich substance, fruitful results, and enduring friendship. And keep working for a China-Central Asia community with a shared future. China's relations with the 5 Central Asian countries, now at a golden age of 30, enjoy a bright prospect of vibrant growth. China will work with the 5 countries to follow up on the outcomes of the 30th anniversary commemorative summit, substantiate and strengthen the China plus 5 Central Asian countries cooperation mechanisms, expand and deepen cooperation in such areas as COVID-19 response, industrial capacity, energy, agriculture, people-to-people exchange, digital economy, and green development, and firmly support each other on issues concerning core interests, so as to build an even closer China-Central Asia community with a shared future, and ushering yet another 3 decades of great achievements for China-Central Asia relations. Thank you.
请南区第二排中间请第一位男士提问，谢谢，谢谢。
谢谢主持人，王国伟你好，环球时报环球网记者杨生提问。不少人认为美国民主正面临着空前的危机，但美国人不断对中国的民主制度进行抹黑和攻击，把民主作为意识形态划线，打压遏制中国的一张牌。美方去年召开的民主峰会被公认不太成功，甚至是十分失败。但美国仍宣布今年举办线下的所谓民主峰会，对此请问中方有何评论？打算如何应对？谢谢。
Global Times. American democracy is in crisis, but the United States has not stopped smearing the Chinese system of democracy or using democracy as a pretext for suppressing China. Having hosted a controversial summit for democracy last year, the U.S. plans to hold another one this year. How will China respond?
Last year, the U.S. held a summit in the name of promoting democracy. Yet, the so-called Summit for Democracy excluded nearly half of all countries on the planet, blatantly drew an ideological line between countries, and created division in the world. The act violated the spirit of democracy. To hold another such summit would receive even less support around the world. China practices whole process people's democracy. It is broad-based, genuine, and effective democracy which enjoys the wholehearted endorsement and support of the Chinese people. This January, the world's largest public relations consultancy firm, Edelman, released a survey. In 2021, trust among Chinese citizens in their government was a record 91%, again topping the world and reaching the highest level in a decade. Polls conducted by Harvard University for many years also produced similar results. These are polls conducted by third parties, and as we can see, the world recognizes China's democracy, and we have full confidence in our path. Human civilization, if compared to a garden, should be a diverse place where democracy in different countries blooms like 100 flowers. Setting a standard for democracy after the U.S. system is undemocratic. Meddling in other countries' internal affairs in the name of democracy would only hurt the people in those countries. Putting one's own system on the pedestal is not just against the spirit of democracy, but also spells disaster for democracy. We look forward to exchanges and mutual learning with other countries on the basis of equality. Let us promote the true spirit of democracy, strip pseudo-democracy of its various types of charade, and make international relations more democratic so as to inject forward momentum to human progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Bloomberg News. There has been a significant increase in military activity in and around the Taiwan Strait in recent months. This has led many to wonder whether China, like Russia in Ukraine, might soon take action to assert control over territory it views as lost. My questions are, what are the similarities between the two situations, and How likely would you say conflict in the Taiwan Strait is at the moment? Thank you.
彭博社，近期很多人担心中国大陆是否会像俄罗斯对乌克兰一样，对台湾采取行动，以武力收回领土。请问中方认为两者有何异同？如何看待台海发生冲突的可能性？
首先要明确的是啊，
Let me first make it clear that the Taiwan question and the Ukraine issue are different in nature and are not comparable at all. Most fundamentally, Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory, and the Taiwan question is entirely China's internal affairs. The Ukraine issue arose from contention between two countries, namely Russia and Ukraine. Some people, while being vocal about the principle of sovereignty on the Ukraine issue, have kept undermining China's sovereignty and territorial integrity on the Taiwan question. This is a blatant act of double standards. Tension exists in the Taiwan Strait. Its root cause is that the DPP authorities refuse to recognize the One China principle and attempt to change the status quo that both sides of the Taiwan Strait belong to one and the same China. The DPP authorities have sought to create two Chinas, or One China, One Taiwan, to misrepresent Taiwan's history and sever Taiwan's roots. This, in the end, will only ruin Taiwan's future. Some forces in the United States, in a bid to hold back China's rejuvenation, have condoned and abetted the growth of separatist forces for Taiwan independence and try to challenge and hollow out the One China principle. This gravely violates the basic norms of international relations and puts the peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait in serious jeopardy. This would not only push Taiwan into a precarious situation, but also bring unbearable consequences for the U.S. side. I must stress that the two sides across the Taiwan Strait share the same historical and cultural roots and belong to one and the same China. Taiwan's future and hope lies in the peaceful development of cross-strait relations and reunification with the mainland, not in counting on the empty promises of external forces. Seeking foreign support to gain independence is a dead end. The scheme to use Taiwan to contain China is doomed to fail. Taiwan will eventually return to the embrace of the motherland. Thank you.
请南区第三排南侧第一位女士提问，谢谢。
谢谢主持人。王国伟您好，我是中国国际电视台 CCTV 的记者。我们注意到，今年呢，中国将担任金砖国家的主席国。与此同时呢，亚太经合组织20国集团也将在亚洲国家召开。那请教王国伟，中方如何看待这个现象？中国期待新兴和发展国家在全球治理当中发挥什么样的作用？谢谢。
CGTN, China is in the chair of BRICS this year. APAC and G20 will also be meeting Asia this year. What role can emerging and developing countries play in global governance?
BRICS countries are a fine example of emerging markets and developing countries seeking strength from unity and a crucial force for advancing global governance. After 5 years, the baton of the BRICS chairmanship is once again passed to China. We will hold a summit and we will hold more than 160 events. We will work with other BRICS countries under the theme of forming a high-quality partnership to jointly create a new era of global development, to deepen BRICS cooperation across the board, make BRICS shine brighter, burnish BRICS credentials for South-South cooperation, and inspire hope and confidence for a joint effort by all countries to beat the pandemic and promote global recovery. We will guide the reform of the global governance system with the principles of equity and justice and put forth BRICS proposals for improving global governance in the post-COVID era. We will prioritize vaccine cooperation and expand public health collaboration to cement BRICS' defense against the COVID-19 pandemic. We will fully advance cooperation in such areas as economy, trade, finance, innovation, digital economy, green development, and poverty reduction to create a BRICS fast track for global development. And we will deepen BRICS Plus cooperation, strengthen strategic coordination among EMDCs, and make BRICS contributions to building a global development partnership. In the course of this year, China, Thailand, and Indonesia will host the BRICS Summit, APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, and the G20 Summit, respectively. Asia's time has come in global governance. In the race of global governance, we look forward to seeing EMDCs turning from followers to forerunners and even pace-setters. Together, we can play a more active role, speak with a bigger voice, help make the international order more just and equitable, and promote more open, inclusive, balanced, and win-win globalization for all. Thank you.
下一问题，请南区第六排靠中间走廊 PTI Lama。
Thank you from PTI. This is the third year that the India-China relations have remained at the rock bottom. We have not seen any change in whatsoever in relation to the relationship improving or even going forward. Can we see some silver lining this year? And how do you see the prospects of India-China relations this year? Thank you.
印度报业托拉斯，印中关系已连续3年持续低迷。中方如何看待今年两国关系发展前景？
China-India relations have encountered some setbacks in recent years, which do not serve the fundamental interests of the two countries and the two peoples. As regards the boundary question left over from history, China has all along advocated managing differences through equal-footed consultation, actively seeking a fair and equitable settlement, and meanwhile, not letting it affect or interfere with the bigger picture of bilateral cooperation. I'm talking about issues relating to the boundary and territory. I think people should understand this. As we have seen, some forces have always sought to stoke tension between China and India and division between regions. Their attempts have put more and more thoughtful people in reflection and on alert. More people have come to realize that for China and India, both major countries with a population of over 1 billion, only by staying independent can we firmly grasp our own destiny and realize our goals of development and rejuvenation. China and India have a combined population of over 2.8 billion and account for 1/3 of humanity. When our two countries achieve stability and prosperity and live in peace and harmony, global peace and prosperity will have a solid foundation. As an Indian proverb goes, help your brother's boat across, and your own will reach the shore. We hope that India will work with China to uphold the strategic consensus that our two countries pose no threat but offer development opportunities to each other, and continue to build mutual trust, avoid misunderstanding and miscalculation, so that we will be partners for mutual success instead of adversaries of mutual attrition. We must make sure that our relationship moves forward on the right track, bring more benefits to our peoples, and make greater contribution to the region and the world. Thank you.
下一个问题，请北区右排左起第二位中华卫视奥琳娜。
谢谢，王一部长您好，中华卫视记者提问。去年您访问中东多国，就实现中东和平稳定提出多项倡议。今年初，您又接待了中方多国外长和海合会秘书长访华。请问，在解决中东地区热点、建设性参与中东事务方面，将采取哪些举措？谢谢。
China Arab TV. Last year, you made multiple proposals for peace and stability in the Middle East. Early this year, you hosted visits of some Middle East counterparts and the Secretary General of the Gulf Cooperation Council. Why is so much attention on this region? What will China do to help calm regional hotspots and engage constructively with the Middle East?
长期以来，安全与发展。
Security and development have long been two major challenges for countries in the Middle East. As a strategic partner of countries in the region, China follows an approach of double support to firmly support Middle Eastern countries in solving regional security issues through unity and coordination, and to firmly support people in the region in independently exploring their own development paths. Over the past year and more, China has put forward a 5-point initiative on achieving security and stability in the Middle East, a 4-point proposal for the political settlement of the Syrian issue, and a 3-point vision for the implementation of the two-state solution between Palestine and Israel, to promote the settlement of hotspot issues and realize regional and common security through dialogue. China and the countries in the Middle East have also stood together in the face of COVID-19 and engaged in joint vaccine production and drug research and development. The accelerated development of a free trade area between China and Gulf countries and the launch of a China-Iran comprehensive cooperation plan have added impetus to development in the region. China has always played a constructive role in the Middle East. We never intend to make geopolitical gains, still less to fill a so-called power vacuum. Over the past decades, the repeated interference from non-regional major countries in Middle Eastern affairs has hurt the region and its people time and again. This must not continue in the 21st century. The power to protect security and development in the Middle East must be returned fully to the people in this region. Support must be given to Middle Eastern countries as they promote peace through unity, pursue stability through self-reliance, and achieve development through cooperation to bring enduring peace and prosperity to the region. Thank you.
请南区第一排南起第二位女士提问，谢谢，谢谢。
谢谢王国伟，我是。谢谢王国伟，我是深圳卫视执新闻的记者。我们看到中国同南太平洋岛国的关系不断深入，特别是在汤加、基里巴斯等国遭遇火山灾害和新冠疫情影响时，中国都是第一时间伸出援手。考虑到有些国家持续干扰破坏中国同南太岛国的关系，您对中国同南太岛国关系前景有何看法？谢谢。
Shenzhen Satellite TV. China is deepening relations with South Pacific island countries by helping with their response to volcano eruption and COVID-19, even as certain countries try to sow discord. How do you see the future of China's ties with the Pacific islands?
China's foreign policy is characterized by commitment to equality of all countries, regardless of their size. That is why the small island countries in the South Pacific have always received special attention and support from China. We will continue to treat South Pacific countries as equals and with mutual respect and trust, and support them in following development paths that suit their national conditions. We will continue to meet challenges together with South Pacific countries through mutual assistance. China has acted promptly to deliver emergency assistance to Tonga after the volcanic eruption, support the Solomon Islands in maintaining stability and stopping violence, and provide vaccines and medical equipment to South Pacific countries hit by COVID-19, demonstrating the spirit of a community with a shared future featuring solidarity in testing times. We will continue to conduct mutual learning and win-win cooperation with South Pacific countries. The two sides have carried out high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, and China continues to offer economic and technical assistance with no political strings attached. The China-Pacific Island countries' reserve of emergency supplies has been put to use, and a Climate Action Cooperation Center and a Poverty Reduction and Development Cooperation Center will soon start operation. China has been a good friend that South Pacific countries can trust. The two sides could work together to set a new example of mutual support, solidarity, and cooperation between countries of different sizes and with different systems. Thank you.
请南区第3排靠走廊海峡时报记者提问。
Thank you. Question from the Straits Times. Negotiations over a code of conduct within the South China Sea appear to have stalled over the last few years because it was initially meant to have been completed by the end of this year. Analysts are now saying that this is increasingly unlikely because of a range of issues, including China's opposition towards Southeast Asian countries having military operations, military exercises with countries that aren't within the region, and also there are issues about whether or not the code is going to be legally binding. So my question is, do you feel like parties can overcome these differences, and do you feel like the code should be legally binding? Thank you.
海峡时报。南海行为准则有关谈判在过去这些年进展十分缓慢，原本预计在今年年底能够结束，但是在东南亚与域外国家开展联合军演、准则法律效力等问题上分歧犹存。您认为相关国家能否克服这些分歧？准则是否应具有法律效力？
提起这个问题，我首先想到的是
On this
南海各方
issue,
行为
what
宣言。
first comes into my
今年
mind
是
is that
宣言签署
this year
20
marks the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. Over the past 2 decades, China and ASEAN countries have jointly implemented the DOC and have ensured the overall stability in the South China Sea.
充分的肯定。
This
当然，要
deserves,
实现南海
first
的
and
长治久
foremost,
安，
our recognition.
我们需
But
要
of
达
course,
成
for lasting peace
更
and
加具有
security
实
to
质内
take
容
hold in the South China Sea,
更为
it
行之
is
有效的
necessary to
地区
form
规则
regional rules that
也
are
就
more
是要
substantive
有一个
and more
宣
effective.
言的升级版。
That is to say, we need
为此
an
各
upgraded
方
version of the DOC.
在当年签署宣言的时候
Therefore,
就明确
when signing the
要把
DOC,
制定
the
南
parties
海
made it
行为
clear
准则
in the
作为我
DOC
们的
that
长远目标。
adopting a code of conduct in the South China
我们看到
Sea
中
shall
国
be the
同东盟
eventual
各国
objective.
启动准则磋商以来，
Since China and
已经
ASEAN
取得了
countries
很多
launched
积极的进
consultations
展。
on the COC,
这2
much
年
has
主要
been
是因为疫
achieved
情的
due to the
影响。
pandemic over the past 2 years.
磋商进程
The
确
consultation
实
process
步伐慢
has
下来
been
了。
indeed
但
somewhat
是
slowed.
中方，我们对达成准
Nevertheless,
则的前景
China
始终是充满信心。
still has full
因为推
confidence
进准
in
则
the
磋商
prospect of
符
finalizing
合
the
中国
COC.
同东盟各国
Our
的共同利
confidence
益，
comes from the fact
也
that
是确保
advancing
南海
COC
成为
consultations
和平
serves
合
the
作之海
shared
的
interests
关
of
键之一。
China and ASEAN countries and is a crucial step
准则不
to
仅
ensure that the
将
South
符
China Sea
合
becomes
包
a
括
sea
联合
of
国海洋
peace
法
and
公约在内的
cooperation.
国际法，
The COC will not only be
也
in
将
line
为
with the
域
international
外
law,
国家的
including
合法
UNCLOS,
权益
but also
提供
provide a more
更为有
effective
效的保障。
safeguard for the lawful rights and interests
现在
of
磋商已
countries
经进入
outside
到
the
一个
region.
关键的阶段，
As the consultations enter a crucial
我们
stage,
希望
I
各方
believe
重视并处
it
理好
is
2件事情。
important for both sides to pay attention to and
首
handle
先，
well
第一是
two
要正确
things.
的看待分歧，
First, we need to put
任
our
何磋商
differences
谈
in
判
perspective.
都会有不同的意见。
Divergent views might appear
那么
in any
准则磋
consultation
商
or
也是同样。
negotiation. That is the same
但是
for
只
the
要
COC
各方
consultation
牢
as
记我
well.
们的目标是一致的，
As long as all parties keep in mind
就没有
that we
任何
share
分
the
歧
same
不可以
goal,
弥合，
no
也没有
differences
什
cannot
么
be
共
bridged,
识不
and
能
no
够达成。
consensus is beyond reach.
第二件事就是要
Second,
坚决排除干扰。
we need to firmly thwart
我们看到某些域外
disturbances.
国家
Some
并不乐
countries
见
outside
这
the
个达
region
成，
are not
也
happy
不希望
to
南
see the
海风平
conclusion
浪
of the
静，
COC or
因为
tranquility
这样
in the South China
将
Sea,
使他们失去
because that would
插手
deny
南
them
海
the
谋
ground
取
to
私利的
meddle
借
in the
口。
South China Sea for selfish
我
gains.
希望东盟各国
I hope
能够看清
that
楚这一点，
ASEAN countries
我们共同
will
来
stay
抵制
clear-eyed
来自
about
外部
this
的任何
and
干扰
jointly
破坏。
resist disturbances
我相信
and sabotage attempts
域
from
外的逆
outside
流
with us.
掀不起
I'm
南海的
confident
风浪，
that no
外
countercurrents
部的干
created
扰
by
也
outside
挡不住
forces can make
地区
waves
合
in the
作的
South China
谢谢。
Sea, and no external disturbance
下一
could
个问
stand
题。
in the way of regional cooperation. Thank you.
请北区第六排中间巴通社阿斯加尔。
Good afternoon. I represent Associated Press of Pakistan. Last summer, the world community witnessed the Kabul moment that the US withdrew hastily from Afghanistan. Currently, Afghanistan is facing the serious humanitarian crisis and threat of terrorism. What does China think all parties should do to support Afghanistan to weather this crisis? Thank you.
巴基斯坦联合通讯社去年国际社会见证了美国从阿富汗匆忙撤军的喀布尔时刻。当前，阿富汗面临严重人道主义危机和恐怖主义威胁。中方认为各方应如何支持阿富汗渡过难关。
美国从阿富汗不负责
The
任地
United
一走了
States
之，
walked away
对阿富汗人
irresponsibly
民
from
留下深重
Afghanistan,
的人道危机，
leaving the Afghan
也为
people
地区
in a
稳定带
serious
来了巨
humanitarian
大的安
crisis
全挑战。
and creating enormous security
当
challenges
前，
to regional
阿富汗
stability.
正处于由乱及治
Afghanistan
的关
is in
键
a
时期。
critical transition from chaos
我认
to
为各
order.
方应当本着阿
All
人主导
parties、must
阿人所有
uphold
的
the
原则，
Afghan-led,
支持阿富汗
Afghan-owned
人民
principle and
积极地
support
探索
the Afghan
符合
people
本国
in
国情的
exploring a development path suited to the
当务
national
之急
circumstances.
是同时间
The immediate
加
priorities
快提
are
供
to race
人道
against
主义
time
援助。
to speed up the provision of
我们
humanitarian
呼吁
aid.
立即解除阿富汗在美国
Call
资产的
on
冻
the
结
immediate lifting
和对阿
of
富汗的各种单边制
the
裁。
freeze on
要
Afghanistan's
无条件的
assets
归还
in the
属
US
于
and
阿富汗
various
人民的
unilateral
资产，
sanctions
要
to
避免给阿富汗
unconditionally
人民
return
造成二
assets
次
that
伤害。
belong to the Afghan people
这样我们才
so
能
as to
帮助
avoid
阿富汗
secondary damage
熬过
to the
寒
Afghan
冬，
people
迎接春
and help
天。
them get through the cold winter and embrace
中
the
方已
coming
经
of
第一时间
spring.
向阿富汗伸出援手。
China has promptly
我们
lent
将
a
根据阿
helping
富汗人
hand
民
to
的需求，
Afghanistan
继
and
续
will
追
continue
加
to provide
新的援助。
additional assistance based on the
我们
Afghan
正在
people's
筹备
needs.
第三次
We're preparing
阿富
for
汗
holding
邻国
the
外长
third
会，
foreign ministers
愿
meeting
意
among
为
the
阿富汗
neighboring
的长治
countries
久
of
安
Afghanistan
发
so
挥
as
邻国优
to
势，贡
harness
献
and
邻国的
contribute
利
our
益。谢
strengths
谢。
as neighbors for the durable
谢谢。
stability
请
and
继续提问。
security of Afghanistan. Thank you.
北区第五排，中间第一位男士提问。谢谢。
谢谢主持人。总台央广记者提问。那王贵我们知道，今年年初的时候，您是成功访问了非洲3国，那这也是延续了中国外长连续32年成功每年首访非洲的这么一个传统。那么，请问中方将为落实中非合作论坛第8届部长级会议的成果，采取哪些措施进一步促进中非合作？那另外呢，有部分外媒认为中国在非洲制造所谓的债务陷阱，那对此您怎么看这个债务陷阱？谢谢。
China National Radio. Early this year, you visited 3 African countries, marking the 32nd year for the Chinese Foreign Minister to make Africa his first overseas destination. What will China do to implement the outcomes of the 8th FOCAC ministerial meeting and enhance China-Africa cooperation? What do you say to those who accuse China of setting up debt traps in Africa?
Each year, the Chinese Foreign Minister will start his overseas visits with a trip to Africa. This reflects China's firm support for Africa's development and rejuvenation. Over the years, China has built over 10,000 kilometers of railways, up to 100,000 kilometers of highways, nearly 100 ports, and innumerable hospitals and schools in Africa. These are not debt traps, but monuments of cooperation. Last year was a big year for China-Africa cooperation. At the 8th Ministerial Conference of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, President Xi Jinping announced 9 programs for cooperation with Africa and called for building a China-Africa community with a shared future in the new era, adding new impetus to the growth of China-Africa relations. This year, we start implementing the deliverables of the Ministerial Conference. China honors its commitment for cooperation with Africa and never makes empty promises. We will champion the spirit of China-Africa friendship and cooperation and work with African countries on the following 3 priorities. First, we will vigorously advance anti-COVID cooperation with Africa. We will fully deliver on President Xi Jinping's pledge of providing 1 billion doses of vaccines to Africa and help Africa enhance capacity for localized vaccine production as Africa works toward the goal of vaccinating 60% of its population by the end of 2022. Second, we will further upgrade China-Africa practical cooperation. We will accelerate high-quality Belt and Road cooperation and work for early harvests under the 9 programs. We will synergize the Global Development Initiative with the African Union's Agenda 2063 and take concrete actions to support economic recovery and sustainable development of Africa. Third, we will act on the outlook on peace and development in the Horn of Africa. China has appointed a special envoy for the Horn of Africa and is prepared to engage in extensive communication with countries in the region and play a constructive role for the peace and development of the Horn of Africa and the African continent as a whole. Thank you.
请南区第4排左起第3位拉通社记者提问。
Good afternoon, Prensa Latina News Agency from Cuba. Minister, how do you assess the current state of relations between China, Latin America and the Caribbean after the reestablishment of the diplomatic ties with Nicaragua and Argentina, the entry of Argentina in the Belt and Road Initiative? In that sense, some countries, as the United States, accuse China of seeking geopolitical influence through its cooperation with Latin America and the Caribbean. How do you respond? How China responds to that accusations? Thank you.
拉美讯社2021年，中国与尼加拉瓜复交，阿根廷加入“一带一路”倡议，中拉关系向前发展。您如何评价中拉关系现状？美国等一些国家指责中国拉美地区开展合作是为了寻求地缘政治影响力。您对此有何回应？
I wish to stress at the outset that Latin America and the Caribbean is a region of promise and vitality. It is not the backyard of anyone. What the people in the region need is fairness, justice, and mutually beneficial cooperation, not power politics, hegemony, or bullying. China and LAC countries are members of the developing world. The shared aspiration for independence, development, and vitalization connects the Chinese dream closely with the LAC dream. Since COVID-19 hit, China has engaged in active cooperation with LAC countries and provided nearly 400 million doses of vaccines and some 40 million units of supplies to the region. Last year, trade between the two sides surpassed $400 billion for the first time. At the third ministers' meeting of the China CELAC Forum, the two sides reached extensive consensus on deepening China-LAC strategic mutual trust and practical cooperation in priority areas in the next 3 years. As the Latin American proverb goes, a real friend is someone who's able to touch your heart from the other side of the world. China will continue to deepen friendship, expand cooperation, and work together with LAC friends for the China-LAC community with a shared future. Thank you.
请北区第4排中间，印尼安塔拉通讯社记者提问。
Good afternoon. I am from Indonesian News Agency. The Indonesia-China bilateral relationship is getting more closer. The volume of bilateral trade between the two countries also increased significantly. By the end of year, the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed train will start be operated. How do you respond? This year, Indonesia becomes the president of the G20. How is China going to support Indonesia to carry out its mission expression of G20? Thank you.
印尼安塔拉通讯社。印尼与中国关系日益密切，双边贸易大幅增加。雅万高铁年底将开始运营。您对双边关系有何展望？如今年印尼也将担任20国集团主席国，中方将如何支持印尼做好这方面的工作？
我很高兴今年的记者会有机会
I'm
回
really
答
pleased that this
印尼
year
的记者朋友提
we
出的
have
问
an
题。
opportunity to
中国
answer
和
a
印尼都
question
是
from an
发展中大
Indonesian
国和新兴
journalist.
经济体代表，
China and
两国
Indonesia
共
are
同利益
both
广
major
泛，
developing
发展
countries
潜
and
力巨大。
emerging economies. The two
在两
countries
国
have
元首的
extensive
战略
common
意识
interests
下，
and significant development
中印尼
potential.
关系
In
已经
recent
发展
years,
成
under
为
the
地区
strategic
国家
guidance of the two
互利合
presidents,
作的典
the
范，
China-Indonesia
也是发展
relationship
中国
has
家
set an
联合
example
自强的
of
样子。
mutually beneficial cooperation between countries in the region
疫情期
and a
间，
model of
中方
strength
率
through
先向
unity
印尼提
between
供
developing countries.
抗疫援助，
In the fight against
率先同印尼
COVID-19,
开
China
展
was
疫
among the
苗
first to send
和
assistance
新
to
冠特效
Indonesia
药的
and
研发
work
合
with
作。
Indonesia on vaccine and
至今，
medicine
我们
development.
已经向
So
印度尼
far,
西亚提
China
供
has
了
provided
2.9亿剂的疫苗，
290 million
是对
doses
印尼
of
提供疫苗
vaccines
最
to
多的国家。
Indonesia, more than any other country in the world.
中方共建“一带一路”的倡议，
And
同
China's
印尼的
Belt
区
and
域
Road
综
Initiative
合经济走
and
廊深度对
Indonesia's
接，
regional
两
comprehensive
国贸易额
economic
去
corridor
年同比
have
增长
formed
了
deep
将近60%。
synergy. Trade between the two
双
countries
方还
grew
成
nearly
功启动了
60%
高级
year
别
on year
对话
in
合作机制，
2021. The two sides have
政治、
successfully
经济、
launched
人文
a
的海上
high-level dialogue
四
cooperation
轮驱动
mechanism
的
and formed a new
双边合
pattern
作新格
of
局
four-wheel
已
drive
经成型。
cooperation covering political, economic,
下一
cultural,
步，
and maritime
中方
aspects.
将会
Going
同
forward,
印尼
China
密切
will
合作，
deepen cooperation
要确
with
保
Indonesia
印尼
on
建成
a
去疫苗
initiative
生产
to
中心，
ensure that Indonesia
开展
becomes
疫苗
a
的
vaccine
全
production
产
hub
业链的合
in the
作。
region. And we're also
我们
going
共
to
同
work
来构
together
建
on a
地区
complete
抗疫
vaccine
的
production chain
防护盾。
to jointly build for the region
我们也
a
要推
health
动
shield
雅万高
against
铁
COVID.
早日建成
China
通
will
车，
work for the
为促
for the
进
early
印尼
completion
的
and
疫后发展
operation of the
争取
Jakarta
双方的互
Bandung
利合作
high-speed
来
railway
提供
to
更大
further
的加
boost
速。
Indonesia's post-COVID development and the mutually
今
beneficial
年，印度
cooperation
尼西亚将
between
主
the
办
two
20国
countries.
集团领导人
This
峰
year,
会，
Indonesia will host the
中方
G20 summit.
一定会积极的
China
支持和
will
提供协助。
surely actively provide
我
support
们乐
and
见围绕
facilitation.
共同复苏、强劲
We are
复苏这
happy
一峰会的主题，
to see that under the
促进
theme of
创新、
recovery
数
together,
字、绿
recover
色、卫生
stronger,
等领域的合
we
作，
will advance
切
cooperation
实
in
地维
such
护
fields as
新
innovation,
兴市场和发
digitalization,
展中国家
green
的利益，
development, and health,
推
and
动20国
uphold
集
the
团为
interests
促
of
进
the
世界经济的复
EMDCs,
苏、
so that the
完善全球治
G20
理
can make
来
greater
做出
contribution
更大
toward
的贡献。
economic
谢谢。
recovery and the better global governance.
请继续
Thank
提
you.
问。请北区第一排中间第一位男士提问，谢谢，谢谢。
谢谢主持人，王国伟你好，我是中国日报记者。今年中国日报客户端继续向全球网友征集对您的提问，其中有一个问题大家特别关注。我们知道去年是中国共产党成立100周年，外交部积极主动在全球宣介中国共产党的故事。今年将迎来党20大，您认为中国应该如何继续讲好中国共产党的故事？谢谢。
China Daily. A question for you on behalf of Chinese netizens. The Foreign Ministry did a lot to let the world know more about the Communist Party of China as it celebrated its centenary last year. What will China do in this area as the CPC will hold its 20th National Congress later this year?
这是一个很好的问题。
This is a very
中
good
国宪
question.
法明文规定
The
了中
Constitution
国
of
共产
China
党的执政
stipulates
地
the
位，
CPC's
明确
status
党的
as
领导
China's governing
是中国
party
特色社
and
会
makes
主义的
clear
最
that
本
the
质特征
CPC's leadership
是
is
中
a
国特色社会
defining
主义制
feature
度的
of
最大优
socialism
势。
with Chinese
所以
characteristics and the
讲
greatest
好中国
strength
共
of
产
the
党的
system
故
dream of socialism with Chinese characteristics. Telling the stories of the CPC well and presenting defending and promoting the good name of the CPC is an essential task and key responsibility that China's diplomatic service must undertake. Last year, we marked the centenary of the CPC with a number of outreach initiatives, including launching the 100 CPC Stories in 100 Days series, inviting foreign diplomats based in China and journalists from international mainstream media to revolutionary heritage sites in Yan'an and Jiaxing, and organizing over 4,000 celebration events of various types at our diplomatic and consular missions abroad. These initiatives and events were warmly received by friends around the world. We're fully aware that the CPC has gained more attention and recognition from the international community. More and more friends from around the world admire the great achievements of the Chinese people under the leadership of the CPC. More and more countries hope to learn about the secrets of the CPC's success. Last month, during his trip to China for the opening of the Beijing Olympic Winter Games, President Alberto Fernandez of Argentina made a point of visiting the Museum of the Communist Party of China to pay tribute to what the Chinese people have done and achieved in their development and progress. We can tell that people all over the world are viewing the CPC through brighter lens, from broader perspectives, and are acquiring a deeper, more comprehensive understanding of the CPC. As General Secretary Xi Jinping has noted, to understand the China of today, one must understand the CPC. This year, as the CPC will hold the 20th National Congress, we will continue to present its stories well, so that more international friends may truly understand the CPC. Thank you.
谢谢。因为时间的关系，
Thank you. In the interest of time, this
谢谢王毅国
concludes
委员。
today's press
谢谢大
conference.
家。
Thank you, State Councillor Wang. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.